Young Minds.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jamie Smart, and welcome to another Clarity Pro case study. And I'm really excited because I'm joined here today by someone who I first met at a conference in Devon in the UK. I think it was about 18 months ago, but given the last couple of months of lockdown have added an extra 10 years to the calendar. Maybe it was longer, or maybe it was shorter. But anyway, yeah, I was speaking at an event called Resilient Young Minds, where we were looking at taking this understanding to young people and to people who work with young people and all that sort of stuff. And I met a lady called Marie Arymar, and Marie and I ended up working together. She's the author of the book, Do You Want to Know a Secret?, which is a book about the principles aimed at young people. And it's just a real pleasure to have you with us here today, Marie. And where I like to start this is to ask, can you just tell us a bit about what first sparked your interest in the principles and about the work that you do?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Jamie. So I have always worked with young people throughout my whole career: youth worker, part-time, sports and youth development officer, further education, pastoral support. And I've always had a passion for connecting with young people on a beautiful level. And I always knew that young people had, or anybody, I mean, young people are just people who are younger, right?
Yeah.
But we all have so much more than we see ourselves, with our own inner critic and judge going on our shoulder. And so I always were guiding my students to what they already knew. My tagline in my further education role was helping you to help yourself. And I fundamentally believe that. Move forward to about 2014, and my husband started learning about the three principles. And I literally thought, holy cow, what's going on? This man's changing in front of my eyes. And unless I get on this bandwagon,
Wow.
I don't know what's going to happen here, because I could see the shift. So it wasn't a very, it was a catch-up reason how I started. But as I started to read and talk to coaches and go on programs, it was like, yep, this is always what I've been pointing to.
That I've heard a lot of people say that as they get the principles, it's like something falls into place, like almost like you always knew it, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it, kind of thing. That's so cool. And how is it that you're sharing the principles with people today? I mean, I mentioned your book, which is one of the ways you're doing it, but what form does it take, the work you're doing, sharing this understanding?
Yeah, so with my further education work, I moved to Devon, and I did some work in some colleges, but finally got made redundant. As with the austerity measures in the UK, that kind of level of people got made redundant. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go self-employed, set up Realization Works, did some coaching training, and now I work one-to-one with young people. I do some school program work, but I don't really chase that work. I sometimes get asked. I do workshops for mainly for adults, actually, via yoga events and things like that. But my real work is one-to-one, working with those young people. I also work with a charity called Young Devon, which is an awesome charity, and I get 6 sessions with a young person who needs victim care. It's victim care support, and I only do 3 principles work with them.
That's so cool. Quick question: you said you kind of took the plunge and set up your company. When was that, Marie?
2000 and a year and a half ago. So
like 18 months ago. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, where you were saying you do victim support work through the Young Devon charity.
Yeah, so that's just 6 sessions. That's all I have with them, a maximum. And then I do my own private work. I have adult clients, but my real passion is young people. So I work on a 3-month program. It's it will be a mix of face-to-face and Zoom work. So I have clients around the country. And I just love it. And 3 months is a really nice amount of time to stay in the conversation. Because what I used to have was parents would ring me up and say, my child's having a crisis, I need 1 hour now. And it's like, well, it doesn't really work like that. So I was chasing sessions. And actually, by going on your 12-week transformation bootcamp, that was the thing that really helped me see that the way I could really serve those young people was by being in a longer conversation with them. And when I explain that, when I connect with the parent, they can see that, and then we move into this really nice space together.
Well, the thing that just struck me, because even before you did the 12-week coaching immersion with me, you were a member of Clarity Pro, and you were one of the early members of Clarity Pro. What I didn't realize until just now was, because you were one of the people who joined Clarity Pro when we launched it a year ago. You were just 6 months into your journey with your new business at that point. So what's that journey been like from, taking the plunge and deciding to start your new business to where you are today? What's that 18 months been like?
It's been really good. I was able to do it because I've been supported by my husband, who really believes in what I do. He does the same in the corporate world. And I have been riddled with self-doubt and riddled with insecure thinking, which is just when I want to take the plunge, I pulled myself back. And I started off slowly trying to build this little business up. And I knew I had this book. I just knew this book was in me. And it was what I call a toilet book. That means it takes about 10 minutes to read. It's really thin. You can have it in the loo and open it at any page, and it kind of makes sense. And I knew I wanted it to be accessible to young people. And when I did that, and it's been really well received, it's gone around the world, and I just knew then that gave me the courage to say, right, now I really need to go out and get these clients. So then I started reaching out to you and to other Rudy Kennard, Liz Scott, all those people who are just so perfect. And I really wanted to get the support of you. That's why I joined so early on when you launched Clarity Pro, because when you reach out, you get the support back. And I needed that so much. One of the things that I heard from you was 100% of courage equals confidence. And it was like, bam. Oh, yes. And it changed my world, because I was the one who was holding me back. I didn't have the confidence to make my business grow. I was dabbling around with scrabbling for £40 an hour sessions, and it just wasn't working for me. I was tired. So I feel so much more courageous. I don't feel confident. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I feel super confident. Sometimes I feel I have no confidence.
Same here.
But I'm okay with that, because I know that I need I don't need to do anything. It's those little courageous steps. It's those little tiny steps. And, I've put things up on LinkedIn. Nobody's acknowledged them. I'm okay with that, because really I'm just practicing. I'm just playing. I don't take it personally. And that was a really, really huge part of my journey. I don't take any of it personally anymore.
Well, it's a really key point, because that thing about courage, I think a lot of people have somehow been given the idea that they need to feel confident and all that sort of stuff before they can take action. But actually, how I see it anyway is that when you kind of have a sense of what the right thing to do is, but you're scared to do it, that takes courage. But when you do that, that becomes confidence. It becomes
absolutely.
So how is that? What are some of the results you've seen as a result of kind of doing courage and that? What's happened?
Well, the most important one is the feedback I get from young people. So I feel courageous in my conversations with them, but my conversations come from real connection and deep listening and non-judgment, which is so vital. I just want to maybe read you one thing that a young client said to me yesterday. Sure. She's 9. I met her through Young Devon. her father, in a fit of rage, smashed the baby sister, smashed her head against the kitchen cupboard twice.
Bless her.
And the baby was hospitalized, and the father's now in prison. And this young girl just wants to talk. And she actually said to her mum, I just want to talk to somebody else. I mean, talk about wisdom.
Yeah.
Her knowing that. So we had a nice, really nice chat. And I read her my book, which is I often do. You know, I just say, at the end, I say, can you just sit back? Or maybe I'll just read you this book. And she said afterwards, she said, and this isn't about the book, it's about the message, right? Mm. She said, I feel nice and calm. I feel happy. I feel proud of myself in general. I do what everyone else does.
Yeah.
And what a message. What a message for a person who's in a lot of pain to hear.
Well, this is it. I mean, there are so many people struggling and suffering and that sort of thing, and just being able to kind of give them some hope that there's something that there's something already there within them that
absolutely. And it's okay even when they don't feel that. So that's the one I want to share first of all, because that's the one that I feel most passionate about. I have more clients. I have clients on a 3-month program. It's difficult now because we're in lockdown. So when I say I've got 3 clients, we're kind of waiting to book in the first day. So when people feel confident, they can start traveling in the UK again. Mm-hmm. But, you know, those conversations, and people are saying, yeah, I get the 3-month program. I get that. I get the need for staying in the conversation. And actually, if we do that and start now, then when they go back to school in September and maybe the bullies come back, or the people who make that bullying behavior happen, then my son will be ready. And it's like, yeah, let's start now. So that's really important.
Yeah. Marie, before we started the live broadcast, you told me that one of the things where you were at before you and I started working together was that you had this idea that you didn't understand the principles deep enough to be able to share it properly. I think that's something so many people can relate to. In fact, folks who are watching, if you can relate to that, you know, not deep enough, feel free. I don't want you to publicly expose yourself, but it's such a common thing for people to think, oh, I don't understand it well enough to share it properly, and that sort of thing. Could you tell me what shifted for you around that, and then how it feels to be sharing this understanding with people?
Yes, I, like everybody else, I have a very, very serious inner critic who sits with me, and I have always expected so much of myself that it's never really been good enough. And so when I started coming into this conversation, I would compare myself to other people, and other people, I would see them as deeply spiritual and almost ethereal, you know, and then I suddenly realized that I don't have to be that, because actually people really resonate with simple language, and what I am is simple language. I'm direct. I don't like to second guess anybody, and I don't want anybody to have to second guess me. So when I'm working with young people, I'm sharing through my own stories. I'm sharing metaphors. I'm sharing drawings. We're always drawing together. The simplicity of my ability to share this message is the crux of who I am.
Yeah.
And when I finally got that, which actually wasn't that long ago, it's like, you know, every time it's like, oh, actually, I call it my Homer Simpson moment. I don't call it these amazing insights. I'm like, oh, you know,
yeah.
Here I go again, you know, Homer Simpson again. So I just don't compare myself anymore, because actually that's my insecurity talking. That's my inner critic. And so it does talk, but I don't listen anymore.
I love that. And you know, a couple of things came up for me as I was listening to you, Marie. Um, One of them is because I know so many people are going to be able to relate to that. And no, my inner space cadet has forgotten the thing that came up came up for me. But oh yeah, I know what it was. The thing that you've done, which is something I want for everyone. It's what yesterday's lesson 3 in the masterclass series is about. It's about finding your voice, and everyone gets the idea that they're supposed to do it like Sid Banks or like Jamie or like, you know, Bob or whoever. But it's about finding your voice. And that's what people are going to connect with. That's what people are going to resonate with. And that's what's going to have an impact. So how does it feel to be sharing this understanding with people and seeing that kind of impact in people's lives?
It just feels right. You know, it feels what I should be doing. It feels, I feel in service, you know, which is really nice. I used to be a fixer, you know, a real fixer. So I can usually spot when I'm getting into fixer mode. But the most beautiful thing for me is that when I'm flying with a client and really with a young person, the connection is so deep, you know, and it comes from me really seeing them as me, you know, because we're no different, we're the same. And so it's not them and me. We are in this moment together. And I will often say, in this moment with you and me on the screen, we're okay, because this is all we have. And you can just see somebody fall away. So for me, having that connection and that rapport, which you can't fake. So anybody who's out there, and I can name 5 or 6 people who might watch this who are saying, I really want to go into schools, but I don't feel confident enough. It's like, if you've got that rapport, if you've got that ability to connect, then you're 99% there.
Yeah.
You really are, because all I feel, and I really want to say this to you, Jamie, in this chat, all I feel a young person is looking for, all I know that I was looking for when I was a young person, is a reliable, steady adult who's totally there for me.
Yeah.
Hasn't got an agenda, hasn't got judgment, is just available to me. And that's what I am. And I love that. I'm so passionate about that.
That's beautiful. And you talked about the 9-year-old girl you were working with. What are the other kinds of results and impacts you're seeing? If you were to just list a few of them so people can get a sense of the kind of difference you're making.
Yeah, I see people from loads of different backgrounds. You know, there might be all sorts of stories happening. And I am still working with a 15-year-old lad whose father is actually about to go into prison.
So you're working with quite a few folks who are in the kind of what we might call the kind of vulnerable and very, very difficult home lives and stuff. Isn't it cool to see what kind of impact this understanding can have for people who society kind of, I was talking in one of the classes the other night about all the labels that people get.
Oh, yeah.
But actually knowing that that's there within all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
well, one lad, so this lad I was working with, he is so caught up in the fear and the confusion about his father. He hasn't been going to any school, doing any schooling in lockdown. And then last week, he had to go to school to do a presentation, which was a mandatory part of his English program. And he wasn't going to go. His mum forced him to go. And he went and he delivered the presentation and he got a merit for it. And I said to him, but you didn't even have to go. Your mum could have dropped you at school and you could have walked out the school gates and gone and hidden somewhere. You went and you delivered. That's wisdom. That's truth. That's innate strength. And you can see him going, yeah, that's true. So what I do see is young people finding a voice, finding a way of expressing themselves through their own journey, not through me telling them, and then being able to hold their heads up higher.
Beautiful. I love it, Marie. Marie, I wanted to ask you if you could kind of go back in time 18 months and send a message to the you that was, struggling with confidence and self-belief and the inner critic and all of that, what would you tell her?
Oh, well, it's 100% courage equals confidence.
Hmm.
I'd have it on a banner across the sky on the back of an aeroplane. Those little tiny steps. It's not the big, I have to set up a podcast series or write a book. I just need to write that down on a piece of paper. Just little tiny steps.
It's funny you say that. This has got all my scrolls on it, but the whole point of creating the Clarity Pro roadmap was to break it down into steps so that people can actually take that journey. Because I think for a lot of people, they have, well, I've got where I am today. Where I want to be is brilliant at sharing the principles. And it's not just a one step. It's like, it's showing up and showing up and showing up and doing courage and taking the next little step. Marie, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure to hear from you.
Thanks, Jamie.